What's up, everybody? We are back again. 25th Dynasty. Beautiful. Absolutely love it. Black folks got together, finally stopped acting so different, came together. Not only did they rule their own territory, but out of respect for Kemet, they went and kicked some ass. They kicked out the foreigners in Egypt, held on to it for a long time until they just couldn't do it no more. So now, another foreign power has come into Egypt, taken over. I don't know how this new dynasty gonna go. I really don't. But I know somebody who does. Professor Bob Breyer. This is ancient Egypt. Ancient Kemet, if you prefer. Let's get to it.
Archaizing is when you look back to the old days as the good old times, and you try to make your art like the ancient art. Now, remember, Egypt had thousands of years of history up to this point. So what we're going to get in the 26th dynasty are the kings of Egypt saying to themselves, you know, we're ruling again. We're on our own. Let's go back to the good old days. And they went back to the old kingdom. Remember the time of Sneferu? And they looked at statues. And they made statues in that style. They did it so well that art historians to this day often debate whether a statue is from the 26th dynasty or from the 5th dynasty. They just don't know. And it wasn't only the art that looked back to the good old days. It was language, too. They used archaic phrases. You know, it's almost like if we were speaking in colonial, jargon. These kings were, in a sense, living in the past. But let's pick it up from where we left off last time. If you'll remember, Ashurbanipal had killed all the nobility of the north, with one exception. He left Necho to rule Egypt for him. So let's start with Necho. He becomes a king, calls himself king of Egypt, Necho the First, but he's really Ashurbanipal's vassal. He only lasts for 1 year.
What?
And he is succeeded by his son, Psamtik the First. What we're going to see is a nice orderly succession of son of a king becoming king, and then his son, and then his son. You'll see there's stability of sorts, and then something will change.
His father
Psamtik the First, king of Egypt. Now, he is told by the Assyrians to run Egypt for him. Now, the Assyrians, of course, basically want it run like a company. They want to send the money to Assyria. So Psamtik has to really control a large country. What does he do? What everybody else does. He puts his family members in important positions. He sends his daughter Nitocris to Thebes as the divine adoratress of Amun. We've seen that before. So while he's in the north, ruling in a city called Sais, sometimes this dynasty is called a Saite dynasty because of that. While he's in the north, he's got his daughter in the south. So while he's in the north, ruling in a city called Sais, sometimes this dynasty is called a Saite dynasty because of that. While he's in the north, he's got his daughter in the south, well placed in the wealthy temples. And he increases the Egyptian army in an interesting way. He takes Greek mercenaries into the army. So he's using foreigners, right? You're going to get some foreigners coming in here. During this time, by the way, the Greeks are really becoming numerous. There's a city in the Delta called Naucratis. It's mainly Greek. We have an inscription from a guy.
See? That's probably why you have a lot of white-skinned people in Egypt, coming from Greece and other places. Because every time a foreign power took over, they mingled with the common folks. They let their friends and cousins and noblemen from their culture come in and take what they want, people included. So some of them people might have went willingly, some of them didn't. But either way, the result was you have a mingling of races. So you get more diversity. And over time, everybody just start getting white. The melanin changed till it was almost non-existent. You look at Egypt today ain't Egypt of yesterday. It's just not. So let's see what the professor has to say.
Polycarmos, obviously Greek. And he says, during the 23rd Olympiad, right, this is about that time, even a little earlier, during the 23rd Olympiad, he was visited by a merchant from Greece, right? And he says, that merchant, when he stopped at the city, made an offering. We have an inscription from a guy, Polycarmos, obviously Greek. And he says, during the 23rd Olympiad, right, this is about that time, even a little earlier, during the 23rd Olympiad, he was visited by a merchant from Greece, right? And he says, that merchant, when he stopped at the city, made an offering. Who was the offering to? Aphrodite. He's making an offering to a Greek goddess on Egyptian soil. This is a Greek city already. Right? We also have Jews coming into Egypt during this time. This is emigration time. We've got people coming in from all over. And they settle in the south on Elephantine Island. It's an island right by Aswan, the southern border of Egypt. Interestingly, by the way, when excavators in this century started looking at the town on Elephantine, the ancient town, they found a few fragments.
I am so sorry about that. I keep getting interrupted by phone calls. It's like, I'm recording right now. I'm kind of busy right now. Can I call you back? Well, I just wanted to say, let me tell you this one thing, and then I'm like, oh my God, okay, all right. Oh my goodness. I don't even know where we were. Let me think. Was it the Assyrians? Jews. I remember something about Jews immigrated into Egypt, and the army had Greek mercenaries in the Egyptian army. So things are getting diversified as far as the culture. You know, you got outside people coming in, they bring in their gods and their traditions, and it's like now that I think about it, taking over another country, bringing immigrants in to set up shop and do business in that country sounds a lot like America? You think? Am I right? Am I on to something? Let me know in the comments below. Does this story sound like the beginning of America?
Fragments of papyri that had biblical names on them. Now this, of course, sets the Egyptologists off. They're looking for more, and they practically tore the town apart and never found any more. They just found these few names. But we know that there were Jews at Elephantine this time. So we've got Greeks, we've got Jews. Egypt is the melting pot. Now, our man Psamtik I, he's built up the army a little bit, Greek mercenaries, And I think he knew what he was doing. I think he intended all along to throw out the Assyrians. Remember, his father was made vassal. Didn't mean he liked it. And he's Assurbanipal's vassal. Now, our man Psamtik I, he's built up the army a little bit, Greek mercenaries, and I think he knew what he was doing. I think he intended all along to throw out the Assyrians. Remember, his father was made vassal. Didn't mean he liked it. And he's Assurbanipal's vassal. May not like it. And fortunately for him, the Assyrians start having trouble. The Babylonians are battling them. And the Assyrians are distracted. They've got their forces elsewhere than Egypt. And our man Psamtik marches north and kicks out the Assyrians. Right? Kicks them out. So, once again, we've got Egypt free of foreign rule. Right? So, the first period has ended. The Assyrian domination is over. Now we've got pure Egyptian. This is when archaizing starts. This is when they start doing the statues. You know, it's the good old days. We're Egyptian. And they go back to the old kingdom statues, make copies of them. They start speaking in the language of an older day. It's back to the good old days. Right? Now, our man, Psamtik I, is succeeded by his son, Necho II.
Wow.
And he's a little different from Dad in that he starts to look outward from Egypt, a broader perspective. Now, remember, whenever you go back to the good old days, you think about Sneferu and what he did, right? Well, Dad starts copying the art of Sneferu's day. He's going to start copying the international trade of Sneferu's day. So he's looking north, right? He's going to, whenever you go back to the good old days, you think about Sneferu and what he did, right? Well, Dad starts copying the art of Sneferu's day. He's going to start copying the international trade of Sneferu's day. So he's looking north, right? He's gonna do military expeditions. He's gonna start trading expeditions. Things are gonna start happening that haven't happened in a long time. First, he recaptures Palestine, marches north, right?
Recaptures Palestine. I didn't realize they had Palestine. I knew they fought against them, but I didn't know they actually took over. So, the Assyrians have turned Egypt into this melting pot of different cultures. You got traditional Egyptians, the light-skinned, brown-skinned, and then you got the white people. So, the son of the last vizier, was he called a vizier? He's like, okay, y'all did my people dirty, y'all did my dad dirty, but that's all right. That's okay. I'm going to put some stuff in place. So, he's got his kids involved, relatives involved. He's putting stuff in place and waiting for the right moment, and then he takes over the country again. Good job. Good job. But see, here's the thing. Here's my thing. Here's where I'm thinking. If we look at history, the way it's told to us, where did they get the idea from? If you look at the parallels, if you look at how things kind of coincide with each other, how things seem similar to modern day techniques. I mean, this was thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. But the idea, just hear me out. Hear me out. The idea of wanting to even the score. You get yourself in a position of power. Not much, but you got a little leeway. You got a little power, and you strategically put people in certain places that you know you can trust. And then when the time is right, You perform a coup. You take over. You take over financially. You take over the military. So when these later Victorians, I don't want to call them Victorians, that might confuse people. But when these later authoritarians, to be nice about it, when they took over, they had to have researched or had somebody to research the history of ancient Egypt. When these so-called scholars from America and France went into Egypt and started deciphering stuff, they had to know the history of Egypt and how all these different groups came in, took over, and eventually got kicked out. I'm just saying, is it possible? Is it possible that the reason why the old regime of white racist politicians keep their foot on top of the black people is because throughout the history of Africa, sooner or later, a group of black people got together and took their country back, and they kicked out the foreigners. Is it possible that knowing this knowledge, knowing for a fact that if we ever got our way, we wouldn't kill them, but we kicked them out of power? Strategically putting people in place of authority, small authority, so that when the time came, every person in their position, in their department, would know what to do and when to do it. Is it possible that that's what they're scared of? Retaliation? Not so much killing, but collectively coming up with an idea to utterly destroy them and keep them from regaining power over the black community. And of course, with that, we'd also have to get rid of the turncoats. We'd have to get rid of the those within our ranks that are for the other side. There's no such thing as racism. I don't see color. What are you talking about? Black people have equal rights. No, I'm pretty sure we don't. I would like that to be true, but until it's actually true, no. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I'll tell you exactly what I mean by this. How many times have you heard of a person in jail for 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden they get released from prison because they didn't do it? Oh, my bad. On behalf of the Justice Department, we are sorry that we took your life away from you. But you got a couple of years left, so go drink yourself silly, have a good time. Really? You repeatedly arrest people, incarcerate them, only to bring them out years later and say it wasn't their fault. But the real criminals, you don't go after. And when you do go after them, it's a slap on the hand. You repeatedly lock up people, black people, for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, let them out because according to new evidence, it was never them in the first place. So we kind of feel bad if we left you in there knowing that it wasn't your fault. But you do everything else wrong knowing that it wasn't our fault. Emmett Till's killers are dead and gone. But the accessory, that's right, I'm calling her an accessory to murder. In the United States law, and I'm no lawyer, but if you are the reason for someone dying, someone goes out on your behalf to kill somebody purposely, maliciously, do something to them that will result in them dying, you can be held accountable for that person's death because you either knew about it before the crime happened or you knew about it after the crime happened. Why is it that in the late 20th and the early 21st century, certain people are still alive and well? Certain people have not been put in jail for accessory to murder. We're talking about the United States legal system. I know that this is true. And this goes back to what I say about racism. How is racism not a thing when you got a known criminal walking around free until her dying day, knowing she was an accessory to murder? How, Sway? How is this possible? But it's gonna be like, she's not important. She only killed a nigga. Besides, we got other things to worry about. We got to pick up all these people for carrying weed on them and distributing and selling it. Then we got these other people that we got in jail for raping people. Although a couple of times we might have slipped up and, we might have been a little bit unfair. It wasn't really their fault, but who knew? We didn't know it wasn't their fault. Who knew? Well, we ruined 15 years of your life, but it's okay. We're going to let you out. Go ahead. Enjoy yourself. Like, really? That's a damn shame. Then, of course, one of my favorites. Some people say, well, she's too old to go to jail. Let her live her life out. Okay. I get that. She's an old woman. She's a senior citizen. Too old to go to jail. Not. I disagree with that last statement. I disagree when people say she's too old to go to jail. And I'll say this. The reason why I feel that way, if you can put Bill Cosby on trial, arrest him, and put him in jail for a crime, I don't give a crap if he committed the crime or not. Rape, listen to what I'm saying, rape and murder. You went to jail because a group of 30, 40-year-old women said you raped them when they was, 16, 20? But this other person was responsible for the death of a teenage boy during the height of racism. And you mean to tell me the Justice Department don't see the fuckery involved in that? You allow a black man to go to jail at what, at 60, 70 years old for something that he supposedly did almost a lifetime ago, but you won't arrest a 70, 80-year-old woman for conspiracy to commit murder. She was a young woman at the time. She knew about racism. She knew what was going on in the South. She knew black people were getting treated unfairly. She knew. She heard the whispers. She heard the stories. So when she made up her mind to go run back and tell her husband that some little black boy was messing with her, she knew he was going to beat that kid down, if not, kill him. And even after all that, she never came forward. She never came forward. She never felt so bad that she said, I can't live with this no more. I gotta confess. It's my fault. That boy didn't have to die like that. He didn't have to. It's my fault. And I take responsibility for that. Nope, she never did. The book, that one guy wrote the book and told part of her story in the book, that don't matter. I don't care about the stupid book. Because putting it in a book where only certain people are going to actually read the book versus going to the local municipality and turning yourself into the police, calling the FBI and turning yourself in. That's not the same thing. If R. Kelly can go to jail, if Bill Cosby can go to jail, then why can't she go to jail? I could give a F less that she's an old woman. And Bill Cosby an old man. And that didn't stop women from going after him. So freaking what? If we're arresting old people for crimes, then arrest her. Arrest her. Where's the public outcry for her to go to jail? Somebody say something negative or derogatory about the Jewish community and they get their ass chewed up and spit out. How many times have we seen that? Somebody say something in the public sphere? Somebody say something out in public, on television, on the radio, against the Jewish community, and all hell break loose? Next thing you know, they issue an apology. Oh, I misspoke. I'm so sorry. A white woman had her husband to rectify a situation that was so trivial, it shouldn't have never even happened. She could have kept that to herself. But this bitch caused the death of a young black man. What, because he looked at her? Because he whistled at her? Really? But I got to hear about freaking Bill Cosby getting dragged to the mud because he took advantage of some women in their teens and 20s. Now, I ain't got nothing against the Playboy Club, but let's face it, we all know what was going on behind them doors. Everybody was doing it. But yet and still, it seemed like the only people that was singled out was the black guys. Specifically, Bill Cosby. So, y'all not gonna, Justice Department, y'all not gonna do nothing? Y'all just gonna let that slide, huh? Y'all just gonna not go after this woman because she 80 years old and big freaking deal. She ain't the only old person in America. I'm just saying. You guys have a good evening, and I'll talk to you later.